And I'll be co-presenting this with Dr. Raj Butch. We'll be going back and forth over the course of the day. I should say that I'm actually retired. I retired as of 2 months ago, or about a month and a half, well, the first of the year, basically. Though December was all vacation, too. So I had committed to doing this presentation prior to retiring, and in the end, we decided that the two of us would present this together. Raj, and so I'm retired, and trying to get in a position to ride a bike across the United States back and forth several times with my wife. But this work is the work that I've done for the last 4 of my 13 years with ASU, the last 4.5 years, just prior to retiring. And Raj?
So, Raj Butch, I'm with the Walton Sustainability Solutions Initiatives, and I'm also working with ASU's International Development Office. Within the Walton program, this is the kind of work we do around circular economy. So you'll see what we did over the last 3.5 years with Phoenix. So
our agenda today is we're going to talk a little bit about a background about Arizona State University and solution services. We're going to talk about the City of Phoenix's program to initially to increase diversion and ultimately to build a circular economy platform in the City of Phoenix, in the region. An important part of that is a partnership called the Resource Innovation and Solutions Network that is a joint venture between ASU and Phoenix that ASU is trying to expand on a more global basis. A key factor in this program is the build out of a resource innovation campus at a former landfill where a large-scale transfer station and materials recovery facility is, one of their 2 large facilities. And we'll talk about how our circular economy has aspects of research, development, education, and practice, and then we have some time for questions and answers and discussion. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Raj. I know that most of us in the room already understand ASU, but we're going to give you a little bit of our overview of how it applies to the solution service.
So the Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability is a pan-university organization. It works with all the colleges and schools. The president, when he created a vision for sustainability at ASU and how the university is going to evolve, saw sustainability as a transdisciplinary exercise, and that all the schools and colleges should be involved. And so the institute kind of works with all of them. One of our major approaches to applying sustainability is to develop solutions. So not use-inspired research that develops solutions for communities locally and globally to those scales. Some statistics on ASU: it's the largest public university in the U.S. It keeps exchanging places 1 and 2 between Ohio State, but 3,000 faculty. That number is over 400 now. Sustainability scientists. That's faculty working on sustainability projects. And then, of course, we have some notable partnerships with multinational corporations. The Global Sustainability Solutions Services within the Walton Sustainability Solutions Initiatives that we are part of is an initiative that's funded by the Robin Melanie Walton Family Foundation. It was a grant that was given to ASU in 2012. It was to advance sustainability solutions through education, engagement, and solutions development. We work on the solutions development side. That's the services that we created. We work with public, private, nonprofit clients and partners to develop sustainability solutions. Our global impact: these are all the countries around the world where the various sustainability solutions initiatives at ASU have touched and had an impact with either faculty or students or organizations, public, private, study abroad programs, but you can see the global reach that we have. We like to talk about sustainability as a resource reduction exercise, a factor of 5 reduction exercise, factor of X. There's plenty of people talking about factor 10, factor 4. But sustainability, if you were trying to capture it in one single statement, it could be that 9 billion people are living well on the earth by 2050 within its productive capacity. If if we can realize that, exactly. So that's kind of the goal. So if you take that as a sustainability approach to sustainability, how are we trying to do it in our little neck of the woods, and how can we then take this global as a potential solution? So I think the answer is a circular economy, and I'll talk about the Sustainable Development Goals a little later, but really it's an ethical circular economy. You can have a circular economy that's effective and efficient, but not necessarily socially balanced, delivering access and equity and justice for all. An ethical circular economy would do that. But the bottom line is that a circular economy is regenerative by design, and so we think that's one way to do it. So what is a circular economy? Well, today we operate in a linear economy where we extract resources, we make products, we distribute them around the world, and consume, use them, and discard them into landfills. And so we have holes in the ground around cities in the world that we just bury this stuff in. Circular economy is going to try and fix that. So we're going to go from being in the national average in the U.S. is about 34% recycling. So 66% of our materials, stuff, ends up in the landfill. A third of it gets recycled. We want to get that number up to 90+%, which is kind of accepted as the zero waste condition. What's the circular economy ecosystem that ASU is operating in? These are some of the partners that we're working in. Some international partners, global McDonough Innovation, which is the founders of the Cradle to Cradle movement and product design guides. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, U.S. BCSD, WBCSD, so you can see up there. We partnered as a pioneer university with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a UK-based organization that's trying to accelerate circular economy. In Europe is where they started in 2010. In 2016, they started working in the US. And what they're calling as their innovation platform, pre-competitive innovation platform, is the CE100 program, where they're trying to attract 100 of the biggest organizations, private sector organizations, into this initiative to develop circular economy solutions to supply chain challenges for these global companies. And within that, they've started recruiting universities as knowledge partners, and ASU is one of their pioneer university knowledge partners because of the work we're doing with Phoenix. So we'll talk about that some more. So bottom line is, what do? We convene and engage and facilitate collaboration between the public and private sectors. The university is seen as a neutral arbiter of that, so we're able to do that with different organizations around the valley, and we're trying to do that around the world as well. Dan?
So the way this started out is actually 4 years ago. It's been 4 years. 4 years or 5 years?
December of 12 it started.
So it was 4 years ago. A gentleman by the name of John Trujillo, who is now the Public Works Director at the City of Phoenix, was then the head of municipal solid waste, and came to us at a conference in December of 2012 saying, hey, I've got a mandate from the City Council to increase diversion. It was at that time the program was called 40 by 20, which meant to increase diversion to 40% by 2020, which they subsequently rebranded as Reimagine Phoenix with the idea of moving towards a lower waste, zero waste environment. We ultimately transformed this platform into a circular economy platform. And with the fundamental philosophy being that ultimately there's not going to be a thing such as trash. It's all trash is going to turn into a resource that can be used for a wide variety of purposes. And so in working with the city, this was the genesis of the idea that ultimately resulted as about a year and a half's worth of planning and approval work before an intergovernmental agreement was created to create the thing down there in the lower right-hand corner called the Resource Innovation and Solutions Network. But the driver was that the Valley of the Sun, which is about 3.4 million people now, 3.6 million people, something like that, needed to look at a different way of handling its materials, especially given that that population is going to double by 2050 and is going to be part of a thing called the Sun Corridor that's going to be closer to 12 to 20 million people, somewhere in that range, stretching from Prescott in the north to Sonora, to the Mexico border in the south, and across the Mexican border for that matter. But the city of Phoenix itself is going to, Maricopa County, is going to double to somewhere north of 7 million by that 2050 date that we talked about. In the meantime, the city of Phoenix alone landfills about 1 million tons of trash a year. That's out of a region-wide total of about 6 million tons. And at the time that that's enough, by the way, to fill the baseball stadium 7 times. And also, there's 2 transfer stations, one in the north, one in the south, where the garbage is brought and they're loaded on the long-haul trucks that travel 130 miles round trip to dump it in a landfill in Buckeye, Arizona, way out on the west side. And so they drive enough, both picking up and hauling both the residential hauling and long-distance hauling to the landfill to drive back and forth to 14 times. One of the things that we have assisted with over that 4 years or so has been a waste characterization. And you can see that at least 75% of the material that go in the black bin, this doesn't count the blue bin, this is actually an analysis of the black bin, that 75% of that is recoverable today. But the question is, how do you get at that and make it economically viable, and how do you incent citizens and work with citizens to get those numbers up? An interesting thing to note is that, which I'll come back to, is that about half the trash, this is, by the way, a number that's reasonably consistent around the world. About half of the trash are compostable materials, mostly organics, food, and yard trimming, wood, that kind of stuff, but also including compostable papers like napkins and things like that. So there's a big opportunity in that space. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So the city council said at the time that they mandated this 40-20 program that became Reimagine Phoenix, is that they wanted to, by 2020, increase the diversion goal to 40%. The national average hangs out around 34-35%. At the time this project started, it was down around 16% in the city of Phoenix. Over the first couple of years of the program, they've been able to lift that percentage up 4%, which has had some nice ramifications, but they've gotten they've gotten a little bit of traction and are pushing ahead with a bunch of programs. They've done a bunch of programs that really don't involve Arizona State ASU at all. Things like what's known across the nation as Pay As You Throw. They actually call it Save As You Reuse and Recycle, say R&R, as opposed to Pay As You Throw, which you basically can have a larger blue bin and a smaller black bin and pay less money on a monthly basis, which incents you to put more in the blue bin than in the black bin. But we've worked a lot with them on education and outreach with their citizens. They have a number of programs going in that area, both with us and by themselves. And then they actively seek to establish public and private partnerships to attack this. The city of Phoenix just recently announced, for instance, a program with Cisco to do an Internet of Things prototyping or ideation prototyping process to come up with information and communications technology solutions to waste management. So that's just one example. They partnered with us and partnered with a bunch of other cities, a bunch of other agencies, and a bunch of other private corporations, including both large-scale corporations and smaller startups. So what ended up happening is we established this thing. They asked for our help in doing more advanced research, education, and practice around material management. And we created this thing called the Resource Innovation and Solutions Network. It's a $3 million agreement between the City of Phoenix and ASU over a 4-year period of time to do projects that explore increasing diversion and educating the public, educating practitioners, and also supports incubation and entrepreneurship. I'll get back to that in just a minute. What we are trying to do as ASU is take this paradigm and replicate it in other places in the world. I'll talk about that a little bit. One of the things that we did from the very beginning, which is one of the reasons why we've evolved this diversion platform to a circular economy platform, was that we positioned it from the get-go as an economic development opportunity. That there was gold in mid-Mar hills of trash, and if we could figure out the systems and the technologies and the business practices to get at it, that it would create jobs, it would create ventures, it would attract capital, would attract major corporations to the Phoenix area, and so on. So we positioned this from the very beginning as an economic development exercise, and the City Council very enthusiastically bought into that. And we were doing this prior to running into the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who has spurred this global conversation about circular economy. And it found out that they were doing exactly the same thing. They were positioning circular economy as an economic proposition, not as an environmental or social proposition, but as an economic proposition. So we were a bit ahead of our time in that regard. The City of Phoenix is actually one of only 2 cities in the United States with the third kind of that actually funds an economic development person in municipal solid waste to work on business creation and attraction. So it's kind of a very advanced partnership. So in the Resource Innovation Solutions Network, we think of it as a local, a regional, and global platform. We work on solutions delivery through education, research, and practice. It's a public-private collaborative environment, and it makes use of ASU's education capabilities to deliver a wide variety of education support for circular economy. So that we're doing all these things both within the City of Phoenix, with the greater Phoenix area, and then propagating it in other places. In the U.S., we're going to talk a little bit. In the world, we're going to talk about our strongest partnership in a minute in Lagos, Nigeria. There's a thing within it called the Resource Innovation Campus that I mentioned before, which is a large-scale plot of land that I'll show you in just a minute. And on that land, we're going to have a thing called the Risen Headquarters Building, where we will eventually operate out of and host an incubator for circular economy technologies. So this is the Resource Innovation Campus. That big white roof building is a transfer stadium material recovery facility. About 600,000 tons of material pass through this facility each year. About 100,000 of that recycling, about 500,000 of that trash. To the right, the vacant land up to on the very right of the screen is a closed landfill, and the rest of that area is land that is going to be used to put companies that will take that material and process that material for value-added products and co-products. This is an aerial view of it. The closed landfill is on the top. This is a little bit of a shift in the view. That blue area is where they are just about in the process of opening a state-of-the-art composting facility that will be initially capable of processing 110,000 tons of compostable material each year, and can be expanded to over 200,000 tons. They have just awarded the operations. They generally build and own, and then outsource operations is how they often do things. For instance, Reed Community runs their material recovery facility as an example. But they just awarded the operations of that facility and will be up and running with it by July 1, I think, is their current target. They're also considering putting an anaerobic digester that will do that same thing. And then the red areas are where market-ready businesses are going to be located that will process materials in different ways. I'll give you an example of the first one that they awarded in a minute. That area where you see all the roads that's a driver training area, and it's in that area that we're going to create a thing called, we're going to build this building called the Resource Innovation Solutions Network Headquarters Building. That's just another view of the same thing in terms of the master planning that's been done. As part of this program to attract attract market-ready companies, the City of Phoenix is putting out a series of calls for first put out a thing called a call for innovators to see what people might like in the way of utilizing this land and what kinds of services and what kinds of infrastructure they would need. They use that to inform the master planning and also to initiate a set of RFPs. They've awarded the Community Outreach and Awareness RFP to Recycle Bank. The mattress recycling has been awarded to Goodwill, who is now processing something like 5,000 mattresses a year for the City of Phoenix. They break them down into the wood, the metal, and the cloth and reuse all of those materials. And most recently, palm fronds. I'll talk about that in just a second. These are the other RFPs that they have lined up over the next perhaps 2 years to attract companies in these areas. So palm fronds is a really good example. Palm fronds are really nasty things for most places that don't have the right facilities to process them. They take special kinds of equipment to grind them up. For instance, that most of the chippers and grinders get clogged up. It's very stringy material, and so mostly it goes into the landfill. Right now, that's 34,000 tons a year, or 3% of that total trash is palm fronds. There's a company called Palm Silage that answered the RFP. It was one of 2 respondents to the RFP that basically grind those up and mix them with waste fruits like dates, for instance, and turn them into animal feedstocks. They have a current company that's operating in California very successfully. They have a whole slew of nutritionists that are looking at different kinds of mixes for different kinds of animals. And they're basically going to put a $10 million plant that will employ about 20 people and generate about $10 million in annual revenue. And that facility, the ground is being broken for that facility right here. So it'll be the first one that will go on site. A lot of our emphasis in the first couple of years has been on organics because it represents such a large percentage of diversion. 50% of what's in the trash is compostable, and using composting, anaerobic digestion methods like this to add value to that and use that material gets you the possibility of raising your diversion numbers pretty quickly. But also creating economic development around material that you used to just throw away.
And organics is 2 birds with 1 stone. You take them out of the landfill and you help with the climate and the greenhouse gases.
So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Raj, and he's going to talk about some of the projects that we've done.
Yeah, so Dan talked about what we're doing with Phoenix on the ground and this campus that's going to get built. But at ASU, we've been doing various projects with these public sector partners of ours. So this regional green organic system design project that we had 9 municipal organizations, 6 cities, 2 counties, and a tribe that funded a project by which we were going to do all the things you see on the right side, but essentially create a system model for identifying organic feedstock from parks and yards and golf courses in the valley, and estimate how much feedstock is coming from all those, and then trying to develop a system-wide solution for processing that waste so it doesn't end up in a landfill. So on this slide, you see what level of organics diversion is happening in the Phoenix area today. And you'll see Mesa, Tempe, Phoenix, and Avondale. Between the 4 cities there, about 55,000 tons of organic materials being diverted today. Under this organic system design that we did on behalf of our clients, that are the 9 organizations, 9 municipalities, we came up with this. You see this more system-wide approach where I think it was 13. Is it 13? I don't remember the count, but no, it's 11 facilities that are spread out around the valley, and you can see the amount of area it'll cover in terms of diverting organic waste. And this, the amount of waste that's estimated to be diverted with a system like this would be over 500,000 tons a year. So we go from 50,000 tons to 530,000 tons diversion with these facilities that would be co-owned cooperated by maybe private sector. This would take 15, 20 years to develop, but this kind of a system-wide visioning and design, because it is design. We didn't just plop this up there. We did the analysis to show that this is viable. This is financially viable. These municipalities can now go in front of their councils and pitch this. And now more and more, so there's 28 municipalities around the Phoenix area. Only 9 were partnered in this, so that the other 19 odd municipalities are now interested in learning more about this. So that's an example project. Another one that we're doing with City of Phoenix directly is the parks turf composting project. So we're taking a lot of their own produced compost and testing it at various parks and soccer fields to see how it improves soil quality, water retention, the grass, how well the grass grows, things like that. So it's truly a science experiment at 6 different parks. The incubator and the headquarters, there's just a picture of it. Dan talked about it. This is kind of what it, an artist's rendering of what it might look like. The other project we've done with the City of Phoenix for 2012, this is 2015 results with the greenhouse gas emissions for municipal operations. You can see that they had a goal of trying to get to 15% reduction over a baseline of 2005, and in 2015 they reached it just by a little bit, 15.6%. But that's municipal operations only. Then, after doing this project, we did a community-wide GHG, which the results of which we just presented at the end of the last year, and is going to be presented to council this year, this month actually, to a subcommittee. We found that community-wide, Phoenix-only GHG emissions are over 16 million tons. So municipal ops are about 500,000 of that. So when cities only look at municipal ops, it's not really a good representation of how polluting the city might be. On a per capita basis, you can see the breakdown there. Obviously, transportation is a big one, and then the electricity and buildings and facilities. Energy is the other big one. But it's 11 tons per person in the Phoenix area. I have a comparison slide coming up. What's the difference between a municipal operations GHG inventory and a community? Municipal looks at the city buildings, it looks at city vehicles and fleets, it looks at wastewater and solid waste. Community-wide looks at everything that's on the left-hand side, but also looks at all vehicle usage in the city, residential, private, commercial, industrial, airports and trains, and all energy use within that city. So it gives you obviously a much comprehensive picture.
But Raj, you said municipal-wise, it's about half of...
500,000 of 16 million tons.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's about 500,000, 577,000 tons is muni ops. 16 million tons is community-wide. Where does Phoenix compare? On a per capita basis, so you can see some of the cities. Phoenix is kind of in the middle of the pile. Why is Denver almost double Phoenix and so much higher than some of the other cities on the right? Because Denver used a different approach. They use more like a life cycle approach, a consumption and a production-based inventory. The 16 million that Phoenix's emissions are based on production only. The emissions due to electricity use and fuel use, for the most part. Consumption is all the plastic water bottles and all the stuff that comes into the valley is also generating emissions on behalf of the residents. If you truly do the complete system accounting, Phoenix is probably more than 20 tons, probably 25 tons. But that's just different approaches. So Denver used a different approach that's more comprehensive than what all the other cities have done. So Dan mentioned our biggest partner within Risen, and that is our partners in Nigeria. You can see on this slide some of the challenges in Lagos, Nigeria. So in terms of solid waste management, what Risen does, I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, but you can see the transportation, the energy, the water, the solid waste, the residential living, the built environment issues in Lagos. So Dan and I were there last April, and we did a circular economy, ethical circular economy executive certificate program for 35 professionals, and they worked on various different sectors, my table, on how to take their current linear system in Lagos and turn it into circular. What kind of policies, what kind of practices, what kind of solutions might be needed to make this happen, what kind of educational solutions, engagement, what new institutions or organizations might need to be developed. How do you measure circularity? How do you measure that you've achieved 9 billion people living well on the planet? Well, the United Nations has already kind of defined it as the Sustainable Development Goals. So our approach is create a circular economy and measure it against the Sustainable Development Goals. That makes it an ethical circular economy. So if you can target those, you can see circular economy might be part of Goal 12. But if you do an ethical circular economy and you do it right, you can address essentially all 17 goals. The way we measured it, the way we asked the participants of the workshop to measure it, is a net positive impact assessment. So essentially you identify the SDG goal and how in that goal your system, whether you're looking at the food system or the waste system or the energy, by what mechanism might you be affecting that goal positively or negatively, and how might you measure that goal. So this was the kind of exercise we did with these folks. And then finally, this is my last project I want to talk about. Dell Foundation asked us to do a project on how the ICT industry might help meet the SDGs. And one of our grad students came up with this, and his team came up with this impact assessment framework for how you can tie an industry's performance to the Sustainable Development Goals. So those are some projects that we've done as part of RISN as examples. Dan?
So a lot of the work that we have done has been very much solutions-oriented or practice-oriented. Global Sustainability Solutions Services, as funded by the Walton initiatives, was really part of the vision of Michael Crow to have more immediate social impact or immediate impact in the greater society through being involved in actual solutions projects. And a lot of the philosophy of the pedagogical approach of the Schools of Sustainability and the engagement approach of the Global Institute of Sustainability is to engage faculty, students, and staff like us in actual solutions work, whether that be kind of analytical work or whether that be boots on the ground looking at a waste characterization or whatever it might happen to be. The next kind of step in the process is that we've done a lot of education and practice work, is to connect back into the research enterprise and create a spectrum of research, education, and practice that deals with the full life cycle of knowledge and technology. So we've, in the last less than a year, this last about 6-8 months, we have been exploring different kinds of funding mechanisms other than the City of Phoenix and corporations to try and connect into the research enterprise. We recently won an economic development agency, part of the Department of Commerce, what they call I-6 grant, to fund for 3 years the RISN incubator. So one of our primary initiatives going forward with the City of Phoenix will be to run an incubator that specifically attracts and supports startup circular economy technologies and ventures. That's going to be a big piece of our work for the City of Phoenix, and ultimately our unit is doing that in conjunction with a unit inside of ASU. It's called Entrepreneurship and Innovation, run by Jimmy Choi is her name. She's a vice president of Entrepreneurship and Innovation and runs ASU's fairly expansive innovation entrepreneurship network. ASU is well known for its innovation and entrepreneurship support. We've been doing it. That's actually how I got started at ASU, was doing entrepreneurial coaching 13 years ago. ASU has been pushing that hard ever since Michael Crow arrived 14 years ago. And so we won that, the EDA grant. We also run a UK grant as a subcontractor to which university?
University of Bradford.
University of Bradford, to take the modeling approach that we used for the regional organic system design and apply that to construction and demolition material in the UK. And we've also had several others that we've applied for. The EREF is a small foundation that is focused on waste. We made the finals for a $200,000 project, and then we're not awarded that. The really big one that unfortunately we're not part of a winning team was a DOE remade project, which was the U.S. agency's first very large-scale funding for circular economy kind of work. That went to a team that was headed by Rochester Institute of Technology, which has been working in the remanufacturing sector for a long time. But it was a great exercise to go through to see what kinds of assets we had, what kind of teams we could build, and to engage with faculty. We had a faculty member who was our faculty director, Risen, who took that on and made it his full-time job for about 3 months to pull together a team that was led by Michigan State University and pull together the internal ASU team to propose to that. ASU and the City of Phoenix together actually ponied up about $15 million in cost share in an attempt to win this grant. So it really put circular economy at the top of everybody's mind, all the way up to Michael Crow and Greg Stanton, and has given us a platform to continue to seek research funding. We also applied for the MacArthur 100 and Change grant. I think we may have just heard that we were not in the 8 semifinalists. They had about over 1,000 proposals coming from around the country. Our proposal was to expand the RISN network. And right now we're looking in this fall of 2017 at a Science and Technology Center for the NSF and potentially basing it on circular economy. Those are just some of the opportunities that are out there. So these are the kind of the classic ways that the university goes after money for these kinds of initiatives that we have been pursuing and will continue to pursue. In addition to that, Raj is now in a position where he has the opportunity to look for similar kinds of international funding from organizations like USAID and other international development agencies to do this work on an international basis. It actually is a split now between the Walton initiatives and what's called AS. I love this. Not USAID. I think it's
ASUID.
ASUID. So it's ASU International Development that seeks large-scale funding for projects, for international development projects. And we'll be pursuing that as part of the thing. So I guess we've got this kind of full life cycle approach that includes education, research, practice, and support of incubation and entrepreneurship is a very important part of the whole thing. Technology transfer, venture creation support, kind of the whole, using all of the tools of the university to support this one idea of building an ethical circular economy on a global basis through a global public-private collaboration platform that we demonstrated here in Phoenix. And I think that's about it. I'm looking for any questions, reactions, thoughts, advice that you might have. We also are constantly trolling for other communities and universities that might be interested in establishing a RISN hub and or participating in a Science and Technology Center bid proposal in the fall of 2017. So looking for your reactions. Turning it over to you with 15 minutes to spare, which is exactly what was the target, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. I don't know how we did that. Yes.
So I'm at a community college up in northern Nevada.
Awesome.
Okay.
And right next door, Arizona, Nevada. I'm thinking our whole system should, if not partner with you all, emulate what you've done for the state of Nevada. I mean, some of the, Phoenix is really kind of not that different from Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, and I saw it on, you already got some of the data for Vegas there. But where I am in Reno, we've got, just right down the street, we're already partnering. We've got Tesla, Panasonic, we're partnering with Tesla. We've got a huge hub for Amazon. We've got Switch. So we've already got, you know, gigafactories and things happening just right down the street from us. So it seems like, you know, like I say, if we don't partner with you, we should emulate what you're doing for Nevada. So how did you kind of get going? How did you kind of convince the powers that be politically that this was a thing that Arizona had to do? Obviously, there's the economics, but is that where you went first, or how did you make, you know, the governments to say we're in?
Well, you know, the city of Phoenix has had a kind of a bad reputation for sustainability. In fact, there was a book written on it, which one of our great advocates, a guy named Grady Gamage, runs around the country demonstrating why it's not true. But there's a book written about Phoenix called the least sustainable city in the world. So, you know, our current Phoenix Council leadership, led by Greg Stanton, but backed by 7 out of the 9 council people, take great offense of that. And so they've made it a specific focus to increase the sustainability of Phoenix through targeted sustainability goals and so on. In fact, they hired a chief sustainability officer, which people thought was very unusual for the city of Phoenix. They've got very formal sustainability goals through 2050 now. And one of the first things they did in their sustainability was come up with this goal of 40% diversion by 2020. So this was actually a mandate from the city council to staff. Now it was informed by the staff, telling them what was possible and what was going on in the nation and the world. But they got a mandate from the city council. The municipal solid waste folks, in order to attack that, created a strategic plan. One of the items in the short, medium, and long-term actions, and one of the actions in the medium term was establish a center of excellence in solid waste within Arizona State University. So it was actually part of their plan in answer to that mandate, and they approached us and said, let's do this. And we spent about 18 months doing a series of workshops that planned out this initiative. Ultimately, the reason why it happened is because there was a guy running municipal solid waste that was very visionary, by the name of John Trujillo, that collaborated with us to design, target a set of projects, and then came with us as we realized with what was happening in the outer world that it really needed to be a circular economy platform. And so it was really the leadership of John Trujillo, the vision and the leadership of John Trujillo, backed by the city council's interest in changing the city of Phoenix's reputation, that really all came together and made that possible. It also so happens that municipal solid waste has a lot of money. They operate under managed competition and essentially run as a for-profit enterprise. They have to actually bid for their own residential hauling, but they actually make a profit and build an enterprise account. So when they approached us to do this, they had $20 million in an enterprise account that is off limits to any general budgeting process. It's specifically to support the municipal solid waste enterprise. So they used $2 million of that money for a 4-year period of time to do this project. Now they've up for another 18 months, right? They've extended to 18 months in order to align with the EDA grant of a 3-year time.
The irony is we do the linear economy so well in Phoenix that the solid waste department is actually minting money, so to speak. Right? They're making so much money. Now they want to invest that money in a circular system, so less stuff goes to the landfill. You need less trucks at the end of the day. You need less solid waste management system. That's what makes sense. You shouldn't need more trucks. You need less stuff going to the landfill. You need more of a system that's working within a circular system. So in Reno, what you could do is approach the solid waste management folks.
Which is waste management.
It's outsourced to waste management.
It's outsourced to waste management. Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm wondering, because you guys got that building across the street, and you're not partnering with them. So is there a disconnect there, or?
There's a long answer to that one, but they're actually competitive with waste management. Okay. The cities are actually competitive with waste management because when they have to bid for their residential, the waste management profession is a small, tightly knit community that knows each other really, really well. And on one day they'll be cutthroat competitors, and the next day they'll be best friend collaborators. And it all just depends on the situation.
I think that the waste management industry is experienced a little bit of an identity crisis.
Right.
Okay,
Maybe
because
they need to take a hit like Phoenix did to kind of, improve their.
Well, waste management was a major leader, has been a major leader in sustainability issues around waste management, but they've also went so far down the road and backed off of it quite a bit too, because they were having difficulty figuring out a way to make money.
at the end of the day, hauling makes money.
Yeah.
Hauling trash makes money, and sending it to the landfill makes money. So,
especially
plastics,
if you're the landfill guy that's charging money to put stuff in the ground.
and the commodity value of plastics and paper is so low, and it's so volatile that you can't necessarily make money by recycling it. So, waste management as an industry is experiencing that identity crisis of how far do we want to push recycling when our life and blood is in moving those trucks and keeping those trucks built. But the officials in the city of Reno will likely, they just as soon not have a contract with Waste Management, I'm sure. But they have to want to do this. They have to have visionary folks, people that see the problem down the road as Reno's population grows, as its waste production grows. The same story that Dan painted up here. You could replace the word Phoenix with any other city's name. The numbers might change, but the story is the same. People are moving into cities, and people are generating trash. And we need to go after that trash as value, not as garbage.
By the way, this is all back-end stuff. We're talking about so far. The materials coming at you at a transfer facility or a material recovery facility. You also have to attack the problem from a design front-end problem and redesign systems, as we were doing with the regional organics system. Redesign systems, redesign products and services, redesign materials. So there's a whole front-end process that eliminates trash in the back end.
Behavior education is the key. So K through 12, as well as community college or university level. So there's education opportunities to drive behavior change. There's product design. There's packaging redesign. And then there's back-end processing. We happen to be working the back end right now. But within ASU, we have a design school that's doing a lot of front-end redesign and packaging and redesign of products. The students graduating, coming out of ASU, are now thinking about how they can design more sustainable products.
Right.
And so it will all eventually, the ship will change course in that direction. But on the back end, John Trujillo and the Public Works Department have to keep those trucks moving to the landfill, because every day is a new pile. They can't stop.
So they can't stop and think about it.
Think about your own residential situation. A truck shows up at your house every week, right? Once a week. So,
by the way, don't put out your container unless it's full. Your recycling container.
Yeah. So 1 week, you have a 1 week cycle. That's how much trash we create, right? And this is all intended to reduce the amount of trash on the front end, and whatever does get created at the back end gets processed back into the system, as opposed to dumped in a hole in the ground.
So you need. But if I can do one last thing to come back full circle to your question, when they approached us, they were willing to bring $2 million to the table. We were also willing to take $1 million out of the Walton funds and dedicate $1 million worth of staff time and resources as a match to it. And then when we take that story to places like the EDA and DOE, that anytime a major grant comes out, we can go back at it with the kind of cost share that is required because we have this partnership in place and visibility at the very top of the organizations. Dr. Crow has called this the most important initiative we have going with the city of Phoenix right now, which is one of many, many initiatives, including a whole downtown campus. So he recognizes the importance of the public-private university-city collaboration, which is really unique and certainly can be replicated. But it's visionary leadership, and it's some source of money to be able to do it.
And if you have Tesla and all these other private companies in town, mean, in our case, we've got Intel, we've got SRP, the utility, and Republic, and who else is on the list? Bashas and the grocers. So we have our private sector now joining the party, and Joellen here works for University Sustainability Practices. There's a Green Sports Alliance that's come together that's now doing sporting events, and ASU has one or two multiple sporting events a year where we do zero waste, where the entire sporting event, a football game, a basketball game, is zero waste. Nothing goes to landfill from that event. Phoenix did the same. The Diamondbacks did the Diamondbacks.
Then they did a spring training game.
The spring training game was zero waste.
They gave it a very effective shot at the Super Bowl, and now they're going to be hosting the Final Four. Or I was thinking Glendale, but all the kind of Final Four parties are in downtown Phoenix, and so they're.
So that's the kind of energy that can be built around this thing. But to Dan's point, there's going to be a bit of vision. There's going to be some money thrown at it, some ideas of what do we need to do. What's the low-hanging fruit that we can go after and start building our own circular economy in our backyard.
But it'd be wonderful to do both the things that you suggest, both collaborate with one another as well as some level of emulation or co-learning, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't think we're perfect by any means. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way. We'd like to be doing the same kind of work with a bunch of people all around the world. And through the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we are doing more of that. But learn from one another how to improve these processes, or you don't have to, somebody comes up with a great idea or technology or venture, you don't have to replicate it. I mean, you don't have to try and outdo it, you can replicate it, you can borrow it and replicate it. So it's like a global knowledge network, collaborative network. We'd love to.
So we can repeat this presentation, we can introduce you to the City of Phoenix folks.
Yeah, well, so you guys have done,
so
it sounds like you guys have done great things with solid waste, and I know Las Vegas has been doing some radical leadership on water conservation, just ripping up those lawns and doing a lot of things. And so I grew up in Vegas and now I live in Reno, but it just looks so radically different now. And even with the new homes and how they're landscaping, the mindset is just so different.
Yeah.
Although I did notice you guys in this area, Phoenix, somewhere in Phoenix, there's some rich people just like in Vegas. There's a neighborhood that needs a boat. Like, give me a break. They can have boats, right?
Boats and lakes.
That's
sir.
Hi there. So I guess my question is sort of about making the transition from the linear to the circular economy. Is there sort of a conventional or agreed upon way of doing that, or what's generally the methodology to?
Well, it's that's being invented by a broad community of circular economy people as we speak. And there's kind of some general principles, but there's also individual answers for every single supply chain, because every single supply chain has different challenges. Like a post-consumer textiles is very different from plastics. And plastics itself is 1,000 different plastics problems. It's not they're all different kinds of problems. And there are innovators and entrepreneurs and organizations that are looking at new technologies, new companies, new approaches, new business practices, new designs in every single one of those supply chains. I like to tell people that we're in the .com era of the circular economy, where there's just this very explosive, rapid innovation happening, and we'll see how it shakes out time, but every single supply chain, every single material type is different. The challenges are different.
So generally, would it be sort of about bringing back around to where it feeds back into itself?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what
I guess that's the general.
The general thing is, imagine you can't put something in a landfill or into a waterway or the ocean or on the street. That you have to make use of it.
Once you've dug it out of the ground and once it's in the human technical system, then it just stays in that system as long as possible. That's what you got to do. It becomes your feedstock as much as you can.
So that's
the answer.
It's a massive redesign issue because that's not how we've designed our society. So it's design at every level. It's system design, it's product design, it's service design, it's finance design. It's it impacts everything, and it's just right now it's a major global movement of a lot of people trying to figure it out. Because
What do you do?
Right now, I'm a student at ASU.
Okay.
I'm studying sustainability, actually.
Okay. So it depends where you are in terms of your career or your job or what you do. I mean, you're into education, obviously, but you're in a city and you want that city to be sustainable. So there's ways you can apply circular economy. You might end up in the private sector. There's going to be different ways you apply circular economy. To Dan's point, it's an explosive environment right now. It's exploding in terms of the innovation that's happening. Private sector is coming up with ways. Public sector's trying to do things. What we're doing here has been socialized in the circular economy ecosystem, so people know what we're doing in Phoenix. A lot of people approaching us to ask the same kind of questions.
It's trending and it's cool too.
Yeah. And I was going to say something a little weird. For government folks that are making, council people that are making decisions and whatnot, the economic message is a strong message and plays really well with them. That if they can take this problem and turn it into a job creation platform,
Right.
that's great.
They see that.
The weird thing is that this really jives with Trumponomics more than you would imagine, because a true circular economy is mostly a local. The more local it is, the better it is. There will be global loops to close. There are undoubtedly global loops to close. But the more you can capture material in your region and use it in your region, the better off everybody is. It reduces greenhouse gas footprint, energy usage, material exposure, raw material exposure, et cetera, et cetera. So it means implementing advanced manufacturing paradigms in your local economy. And so it's got a lot of promise there.
Just the city of Phoenix produces 300,000 tons, give or take, of plastic waste. And it's coming from other places, because we don't have plastic manufacturing in Phoenix. So it's coming from somewhere else. We use it, we have it, we throw a third of it away, whatever. 300,000 tons a year gets shipped to China. They turn it into water bottles, and it comes back again, right? Talk about that circular economy, how bad that is. So we need those circular solutions to be local. Organics have to be local. We're not going to ship compost to LA. We create compost, keep it local, keep our agricultural industry going. Parks and golf courses, and they all use compost. They use inorganic fertilizers. Convert that to organic fertilizers.
We are almost out of time, but I just want, it's such an exciting and amazing work you're doing, and I'm really sorry this wasn't like a general session discussion, because it's really where we need to be going as a society. But I am interested, if you could just touch on really quickly, the connection between GEOS and the Sustainable Solutions Initiatives and students. How are they involved?
So those projects we do, so Walton Sustainable Solutions Initiative is an initiative within GEOS. So we have a team of about 30 people, 30 to 40 people, and within the GS3, the Solution Services, there's 8 or 10 of us. So that's the initiative. Some of our team are project managers. And so every one of those projects I talked about, we have a project manager, we have faculty that we recruit that provide the technical guidance. It could be engineering faculty, business faculty, different departments, supply chain management, marketing, policy, health.
GIS.
So different faculty from different schools and departments are our technical advisors, and we use grad students and undergrad students to do the analysis and the work. So the lit reviews, the research, the modeling. We do GIS modeling. We'll find a grad student that knows how to use ArcGIS, the software. All those maps you saw, created by students.
Yeah.
So that's how we use students. So
what
we
an amazing
use the
opportunity.
It's win all the way around.
So in 4 years, we've done about 80 projects, including this about 20 or so for the city of Phoenix, that has engaged 160 faculty members and 400 students. Is that the numbers? Or is it 200 students?
It's 200.
200 students, and it's actually 160 faculty projects. I mean, we've had faculty members that have done multiple projects with us. The total number of faculty is probably in the neighborhood. It's north of 50, from all over ASU. So I actually
that's for global services alone. If you add the other 6 initiatives, number goes way up.
And my favorite thing about this is the jobs that our students get, because they walk into an interview and they've worked on 2, 5, 10 projects with us, and they just get these stunning jobs.
System modeling, greenhouse gas emissions, circular economy work, different footprinting projects. So they walk in and they've got real world experience for a city or for a client, and it's amazing. Some of our employees they're students, but they work for us.
Right.
They end up working at cities. They've gotten into private sector jobs.
The official pedagogical approach to the school sustainability, they call solutions-based learning. That's exactly what we do. Is we put them in solution situations and they learn as a result, and we learn as a result, and they get great jobs doing it.
Here's the problem in your backyard.
Yeah.
Go apply all that stuff you learned in the classroom to fixing that problem. So it's solution-based. Try to solution. Joel, you had a question?
Just curious, how does Phoenix see rolling out the composting program to now if they're ready to really develop it?
I mean, what do you mean? How do they see it?
Will they, collection-wise and all, will they work with the sector?
Well, the City of Phoenix primarily, kind of 2 answers to that question. The City of Phoenix serves single-family residents.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're doing there primarily is rolling out a green bin. They started with a fairly small percentage of the population, but their goal is to roll out a green organics bin where you put your yard clippings, not your food, but your yard clippings along with the blue and black bin. And they feel that they can get to 50,000 tons pretty fast that way. Now, ultimately, 50% of the trash is compostable. They'd like to get their hands on all of that, but they can get about 50,000 tons within the first year or 2 just through the green bin program. The other aspect that they deal with is landscapers. Self-haul landscapers. Yeah. By the way, that's why the palm fronds work, because usually a landscaper, when they're trimming palm trees, that's all they're doing in a day.
Right.
And they bring in a very clean load of all palm fronds generally. It puts the City of Phoenix in a position of being able to separate that pretty easily. They're going to get a lot of it initially for the green organics. A lot of what we did in terms of the study for the region-wide system was suggest that there need to be collaborations in how collections are done, cross-city collaborations, because the most efficient mechanism to build large-scale facilities that are economically viable is to collect in an area around the facility that will include multiple municipalities. So that's one of the innovations that we're suggesting, is that the city share collection in an area to feed a facility that can produce C&G or compost. Was it somebody that did you have? By the way, the other thing to think about is from the very day we met them, they recognized that the compost was the way that they were going to get closest to the 40% number, because that's what the bulk was, that was where the low-hanging fruit and the bulk of the material was. I will also say that their official city sustainability goal now by 2050 is zero waste. Circular economy is a strategy that they're taking to get there. One other thing is now the mayor, Greg Stanton, is being asked to appear on panels around the world. He just went to Mexico City to explain the City of Phoenix's circular economy strategy. So that means the politicians and the city are getting a new reputation, or they're getting notoriety for this kind of thing. So that feeds into the enthusiasm.
So this is an off-beat question.